Hello, everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope we're doing well, and today we'll be talking about Ghostbusters 2016. Yeah, a bit of a throwback here because its director, Paul Feig, Feig? I don't really know exactly how to pronounce his name, as it's very close to Kevin Feige in spelling at the very least, but I know it's not. Paul Feig. I'm going to call him Paul Feig for now. But anyway, he has a bit of an interesting question. He's wondering why his film is not included in the Ghostbusters Ultimate Collection, and it ultimately comes down to the fact that, well, you didn't make a Ghostbusters film, and obviously plenty of people will make excuses saying, well, it's not a part of the official canon anyway, and so why would it be included in there? Because it was a massive financial flop, and we'll go ahead and dive into those numbers and compare it to Ghostbusters Afterlife, because there have been some people who've been trying to troll saying, wait a minute, this film's not doing nearly as well as Ghostbusters 2016. Au contraire, when you actually look at the numbers and dive into them as they are, you realize that Ghostbusters Afterlife is actually a much more successful film than Ghostbusters 2016 could ever hope to be. But before going any further into that, please make sure you smash that like button, light up that fire button if you're watching over on Odyssey, and also make sure you're subscribed to the channel with that bell notification turned on. That way you know every time a new video or live stream goes live on these channels. So this, of course, coming to us from our good friend John F. Trent over at Bounding Into Comics. As it says, Ghostbusters 2016 director Paul Feig, who notoriously attacked fans for criticizing the film and has blamed everyone but himself for the film's box office failure, is now wondering why his film is not included in a newly announced Ghostbusters Ultimate Collection. If you recall, Feig responded to criticism of his gender-swapping the Ghostbusters back in 2015, where he labeled critics as misogynist. The director told E! "The internet is really funny. I love it, but I hate it at the same time. The first wave when you make an announcement like that is overwhelmingly positive. Everyone's so happy and you're like, this is great." He continued, "Then comes the second wave and you're like, OMG, some of the most vile misogynistic crap I've ever seen in my life." No, it's that you decided to remake and reboot a franchise without any of the original characters, and the sole premise that you are jumping off of, or the basic idea that you're pitching, is, what if we made them women? That's not a good jumping off point, all right? Because guess what? In Ghostbusters Afterlife, you know what you have in that? You actually, oh my goodness, you actually have a female character. She's a young female character. She's a little girl. And oh my goodness, the character development that she goes through and the character that she has, that you buy into it, is so much more well done than all four of these characters added together. Basically what it comes down to, Paul, is that you're just not a very good writer, and you made a terrible story, and it all came from a terrible premise. Whereas Ghostbusters Afterlife is continuing and honoring the original source material, you decide instead to jump off with an agenda from the very first go, and then you decide to crap all over the original franchise and crap all over the fans in the first place. Let's just remember also that you did cast Chris Hemsworth to play a dumb blonde guy in it, trying to make some kind of joke about the original secretary from the original films, even though she was not dumb in any way. In fact, she was just as bright as any of the other Ghostbusters, in fact. But hey, let's go ahead and just ignore that for a minute, because, again, your film was just complete drivel. It was complete political garbage, which is why your film ended up being a massive financial failure. As it goes on, the film would end up bombing at the box office, only grossing $229 million worldwide. And remember, there wasn't a pandemic going on. Remember, that's been an excuse going on. And even though I could easily use that same excuse, saying that is what everyone in the media is using for any film that has not done well, including people in the comments section who love to use it still as an excuse, guess what? I don't even have to use that, because even though when you compare both films and you have Ghostbusters 2016 having a higher end worldwide total than that of Ghostbusters Afterlife, guess what? You do have a major discrepancy as far as net gains are concerned, and more on that in a second. According to the numbers, the film's production budget was $144 million, meaning it would have needed around $360 million to break even. Following the film's box office disaster, Feig would blame the 2016 election for its poor grosses, telling the Telegraph, "I've been dying for someone to look at Hillary Clinton's campaign and us, because we were caught in the same exact vortex." Ah, yes. So again, blaming Trump, blaming everyone but yourself. You made a bad movie. Just get over it. Even companies like Movies Anywhere can even show that fact by the fact that when you were signing up for that program, Movies Anywhere, and I'm sure this is, anyone else who signed up for it can probably tell you this as well. When you signed up for it and you connected your different accounts, right, to connect all of your movies collections from your iTunes and Google Play all together, basically it said, hey, if you do this, we'll give you free movies. And there was a set specific kind of free movie. There were certain free movies that they were going to give you. And guess what? One of them was Ghostbusters Afterlife, the extended edition. Or rather, not Ghostbusters Afterlife, Ghostbusters 2016, the extended edition. Oh, if only this was happening now and I could get Afterlife, the extended edition. That I would take in a heartbeat. But no, they were gifting you the extended edition of Ghostbusters 2016. And the question that I had immediately was, okay, this is a free movie and I don't want it. How do I get this out of my library? It's almost like U2 when they gave everyone on iTunes their free album and people were like Googling, like the number one trend of that day was, how do I get this off of my phone? How do I get this out of my iTunes account? I don't want this. It's basically what the reaction was to this because people didn't like your film. So let's go ahead and dive into some of the numbers then. So Ghostbusters, right? Ghostbusters Afterlife, the newer film, right? $44 million opening weekend. Right now is sitting around $176.7 million as of the recording of this video, and it's pretty much out of steam at this point in time. However, one thing that we can note is when you look at that production budget, $75 million. Wow, that's actually pretty low for the quality of film that we got. And wait a minute, the worldwide box office actually is 2.4 times the production budget. And actually, I can thank someone who went after me and others for talking about Spider-Man as being a pandemic breaker for this. Thank you very much for this bit of insight. And basically, the equation that I've been using for a long time, for years now at this point, to determine the break-even number for any film has been rather complex. But actually, it's a lot simpler than what I even expected. Basically, if you multiply the production budget by 2.5, that is your essential break-even number, roughly your break-even number. And that same number is what I get from my own equation, which is when you take the number and multiply it by 0.6, since that's the studio's take, and then you figure all that stuff out in advance. But hey, 2.5 is actually a lot easier. So I'm sure any of the people that hate when I do math on the channel will say, oh, I actually multiply it by 2.5. Even I can do that. That sounds like so much easier. But anyway, 2.4 times the production budget. So this film is on the brink of breaking even. Let's go to Ghostbusters 2016, why don't you? Okay, $46 million opening weekend. Okay, so yeah, it beats Ghostbusters Afterlife in that way. But, oh wait, what was that production budget? $144 million. Meaning that this film had a higher production budget, meaning theoretically it should have been a higher production film, meaning it would have had more marketing, meaning that it should have had better marketing since they would have spent more money on it. And what's this? Only 1.6 times its production budget. Huh. Well, what do you know? That's a far cry from the 2.5 times it would need to break even. And guess what? It did not. In fact, when you compare the films to each other, it becomes even more drastic. So this has the little adjusted for inflation tag on, which I love over at the numbers. It just makes things a lot easier. But as you can see, adjusted for inflation, the production budget for Ghostbusters 2016 will be around $152.4 million. And as you can see, opening weekend, it would have won domestic total. It wins international box office. It made twice as much. And again, I could easily say, well, pandemic explains this, especially when you look at the international market because so many places have been shut down, etc. But I don't even need to do that to make my overall point because, for one, there are several days where Ghostbusters Afterlife has beaten this film even when you adjust for inflation, and especially as you get later on in the release. As you can see, from the 5th Friday on, most of the days have actually been won by Ghostbusters Afterlife. And so, though this film might be on the way out, it is making twice as much as its competitor did in its release. So it'll be interesting to see what these numbers are and following these numbers as it continues to leave theaters, and whether it'll be out for 10 weeks or not. Probably not, because guess what? It's already on pre-order. Not only can you buy the 4K for Ghostbusters Afterlife at this point, but you can also get, as again was mentioned in the article, the Mega Ultimate Collector's Edition, which actually looks pretty darn cool. It's got a lot of stuff in there that is totally reminiscent and reminds you of why people love the franchise so very much. And it has Ghostbusters 1, Ghostbusters 2, and then Ghostbusters Afterlife, which in, again, movie terms is Ghostbusters 3 ultimately, and it does a really good job of paying respect to the source material, which is why people are genuinely favorable of it. So even though, yeah, on paper, the numbers seem to very much indicate Ghostbusters 2016 did better, when you actually dive into them, and when you actually look into them further, you realize, wait a minute, it's not that clear. So let's go ahead and dive into this a little bit. All right, so budgets. All right, Ghostbusters 2016 cost, just for inflation, $152.9 million versus Afterlife's $75 million. So it cost twice as much to make, and yet it didn't make twice as much money as that film. Oh, twice as much as Afterlife did. So that's already kind of an indication of, okay, maybe it's not nearly as impressive as some people are trying to say. The total cost for the movie itself was $228.7 million. Again, that's just based off of standard marketing practices. You multiply the budget by 1.5, it gets you roughly how much entirely a film would have spent, production budget and marketing together. And again, these numbers can fluctuate because of different deals and different revenue streams. And obviously, people always mention these things saying, what about this? What about that? And when you dive into the weeds of all the other revenue streams and all the other costs and everything that you could possibly imagine, it gets very complicated. And so I try and keep things as simple as we can based on the numbers that are given and on standards ways of figuring things out. The total cost, on the other hand, of Ghostbusters Afterlife was $112.5 million. The break-even number for Ghostbusters 2016 was $381.2 million, whereas it was only $187.5 million for Ghostbusters Afterlife. As of right now, the worldwide total, when adjusted for inflation for Ghostbusters 2016, was $242.5 million, whereas this film, Afterlife, is at $176.7. So some people are looking at this and saying, wait a minute, Ghostbusters 2016 did better. Oh my OMG, that breaks the narrative, everybody. Look at this. Or does it? Because the most important number of all is this number right here, the net gain and net loss. Ghostbusters 2016 lost $83.2 million. It was a massive flop for its year. And again, of the Ghostbusters franchise. Afterlife right now is only sitting around $6.4 million. So this loss will end up getting a little bit shorter, a little bit smaller as the film continues to make a little bit of extra money. And here's the other thing. It has a Blu-ray 4K release coming out. And not only is it getting released by itself on 4K, not only is it going to be getting its own probably steelbook, collection and things like that, but you also have, again, plenty of people that I know who are already pre-ordering this. It's also being included in the Ghostbusters Deluxe Collector's Edition with the first two Ghostbusters films. And the fact that Paul Feig's, whatever his name is, the fact that his film is being left out, it's actually evidently clear as to why that is the case. 2016 was a massive flop. Even the people who defend the film saying, well, it wasn't technically a part of the franchise because it was a reboot and blah, 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 blah. Okay, yeah. Well, there's your answer, Paul. Your film was a financial failure. Your own fans of the film will try and defend it by trying to say it's not really a part of the universe, and so therefore it has no place to be in it. And when you actually look at the numbers, Afterlife, when it comes out on Blu-ray and 4K, it's going to be able to make a lot of that money back. Let's go ahead and look and see how much money this made back in its, 2016. $38.9 million in Blu-ray and DVD sales. $38.9 million. Not quite enough to make up that $83 million loss there. Now, could it have made it up over the years with people wasting their money, studios or companies wasting their money, buying the rights to show it on their streaming service? Sure, absolutely. There is a chance. But guess what? This film, probably already in pre-orders alone, has already been able to make up the $6.4 million. And so the legacy of this movie is going to be, hey, it wasn't a financial success at the box office, but hey, at least this film, we could argue, broke even within the year of its release. Whereas this film was a massive loss and a massive disappointment. And if you want even further proof of that, look no further than Paul Feig and his reaction and the fact that, yes, you're not going to get Ghostbusters 2016 on that special collector's edition. And guess what? That is a good thing. So anyway, what are your thoughts about this battle between the two Ghostbusters? Again, I'm sure there'll be plenty of trolls in here saying, well, it still made more and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, but you know what? It's all about the money, money, money. So yeah, 176 versus 242. You're right. Absolutely right. And yet, I imagine you're probably the same people that have been using the box office pandemic excuse for other films that you've been a fan of. You probably were a fan of the West Side Story film and are defending that movie, even though it's a financial flop. But yet again, I don't need to use that excuse because all I need are these numbers right here. And as you can see, it is very clear that while this number might be smaller than Ghostbusters 2016, it is going to be making its money back, at the very least, in 4K and Blu-ray sales, whereas 2016... I don't hear about a Ghostbusters 2016 2 anytime soon, whereas this film, immediately there was conversations about, are we going to get more? Now, I personally would not want to have more of that because I think this was a perfect ending to the Ghostbusters story, but we'll have to wait and see. Let me know your thoughts, though. What do you think of this battle? Are you kind of surprised by these numbers here? Let me know in the comment section below this video. Smash that like button, live that fire button on Odyssey. You're all amazing and beautiful people. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Hope you're having a wonderful and blessed Christmas season as well. I'm literally, if you see me looking down, it's because I am on stay-at-home dad duty. as daycare, of course, is all for the holidays, and little baby Thor is napping. So anyway, you guys are all wonderful, amazing, beautiful people. Have a wonderful day. And as always, God bless. And now for a huge shout out to all of my December Patreon Subscribe Star and Locals members. Animation commentator Brandon, Brian P., Christopher Bowman, Dolores Ed, Dion, Father Christopher Miller, Hail to You Father, Father Damian Cook, Garrett Searles, Hannibal Grimm, Harold Francis, Inflamed Wood, Jacob Juice, Jeff Toon, Joe Horn, Jonathan Carney, Gomer Kyles 79, Laura, the Modern Major General's Story, Mike Jackson ×4, Mitch Dunaway, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mr. Peabody, Mondo Spieler, On to June, Orange Chat Reviews, Out of Step with Reality, Priscilla Hall, Rosetta Ullen, Stan Andrian, Teresa Martin, Theodore Bendon, and Tina Bojan, and of course, the Empress of the Universe, Tina B. Thank you very much for being my Patreon members. And for my Subscribe Star members, UAB Mad Dog, Mike Jackson, Storm Tracker, The R, Fast Reaction, Nosferatu Gatsu, Stan 4, John B., Mr. Roy, Glinzer, J. Alex McCarthy Jr., Dean Heiss / the new number 2, J-Rod, the Beer Guru, and ZK-Man. Thank you very much for supporting me on Subscribestar. And to my 4 members over on Locals.com, Kara Tharp, UAB Mad Dog, once again, Mike Jackson, Bifford a Hobbit, and Robert Barnes. Thank you for supporting me on Locals, and if you want to have your name shouted out at the end of every video and live stream, check out the top link in the video description below. It's called Willow, or w.lo, Willow link. It'll bring you to all of my social media platforms and also to all of the various other locations that you can support the channel. You can get access to things like giveaways, where I do giveaways of 4K films, 4K steelbooks, digital codes, all kinds of stuff every single month. Also, there's a level where you get access to all of that, plus an exclusive podcast that I do with John the Flick Pick Flickinger, where you also get to ask questions that we will answer on every episode of the podcast. And at the final level, you also have the ability, the Chosen of Valhalla level, you have the ability to have all of that, plus in your first month, get a free t-shirt of your choice, any color, sent anywhere in the world, and also you get to be featured once a month on the Chosen of Valhalla live stream featured on the main channel. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, check out the link in the description. You're all amazing and beautiful people. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, God bless.